How goes the family? Welcome back to Larry's Anything Goes. Just coming on to talk to my brother from another mother, good old Adrian Gonzalez, about specific topics that are affecting the United States. You know, um, a lot of things are happening out here nowadays, and no matter how you feel about it, um, it's interesting. And I know this week we're supposed to get some news about people still getting more unemployment, possible stimulus checks, and things of that nature. So it's going to be interesting how things play out. I can't put it any other way than that. It's going to be very very interesting to see how things play out in that regards, and go from there. You know, but a lot of states are seeing a lot of uncertainty right now, and um, a lot of governments aren't even making a lot of money right now because people aren't getting paychecks. I mean, remember, you get a paycheck, and especially for those that get paid twice a month, you see on that line where taxes are being taken out, and if people aren't getting paid, then that means states, local county governments, and federal government's not getting paid, unfortunately. And if consumer spending is down, then that means even a lot of counties and states and whatnot are not receiving it those funds either. So a lot of people are in a sense are kind of in the just over broke. There he goes, pretty boy, Adrian Gonzalez, ladies and gentlemen.
How's it going?
Oh man, yeah, we could. You're having a great discussion today. Topic, real short topic, because I know you've been busy all day. In regards to, thanks again for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Anytime.
But yeah, just the uncertainty of a lot of states in America right now. I mean, just or uncertainty of the for future employees. I mean, what do you see as your prediction within the next 5 or 10 years if people don't figure out how to make money in their sleep, as Warren Buffett would say, the work
Well,
they die.
I mean, the thing is, people counting on, their social security or counting on their 401ks to be able to survive. A lot of people are not going to be able to save enough money to be able to survive, and the cost of living, continues to rise. And
Mm,
government programs are over time are going to end up being slashed, so trying to depend on just one form of income is just not reliable. Just look at the COVID-19 has revealed that relying on that one job, and then all of a
right.
sudden, you get laid off because of something catastrophic like this happening. Then you're left wondering, like, what to do. That's why it's always good to have an alternative source of income. It's
Absolutely.
always good, not just, even if just having, just to be able to save more, to be able to create a life for yourself that's, that you'll be happy with, I
Exactly.
mean, so that way you don't have to worry about living paycheck to paycheck. Because a lot of people, a lot of statistics out that most people in this country are about one paycheck away from bankruptcy. They don't, it's there's they don't have savings. There people are trying to bank that, oh, well, I have a 401k, or oh, well Social Security, but there's no guarantee that Social Security as we know it may be around by the time, depending on your age.
Agreed.
Given my age, and I don't even know if Social Security is going to be around, or it'll be like 90 years old before you can qualify for it. 100 years old. I mean, not going to be realistic. Let's be honest.
What I'm saying? And I'm laughing because it's the truth. It's like
Yeah.
the millennial generation, correct me if I'm wrong, is like the first generation to basically like know that there's just no certainty when it comes to most positions anymore. You
That's
know,
correct.
retirements are non-existence for most people. Um, and then I guess my biggest pet peeve I was listening to a stream today. They the school system really is not teaching us how to be independent. It's taught us to be dependent, and it's kind of quote unquote um I'm not going to say irrelevant, but a lot of the teachings outside of teaching people basic math and writing and arithmetic and things of that nature is becoming more relevant because it's like, okay, how come I don't why as a senior leaves high school, at least a senior, right? They should know how to buy a home. They should know at least the one, two, three steps of process of how to create a business, and they should at least know how to obtain insurance, how to leverage insurance, and how to leverage a 401k. Heck, they should even know what a 401k is. You know, I mean, these certain things, because not everybody's going to own a business. We know that no country can survive if everyone owns a business. We can all agree on that, right?
That's correct.
But everyone should know the principles of wealth before they get out of high school, at least the one-on-one aspects of it. And then as they get into college or they go to more training or things of that nature, this should be taught. So not only so they have more security, and so they're not totally 100% dependent on their employer. Nothing wrong with having a job. Having a job is great. But, you know, if your employer goes bankrupt and out of business, because some go bankrupt and stay in business, they just have massive layoffs and whatnot. Kind of like, I think a lot of the airlines are supposed to lay off mechanics and pilots by October, I believe.
Yep.
Fortunately.
And, you know, if you're a pilot, and I don't know about you, I don't see air travel, increasing anytime soon. So that's put them in kind of a bind. And I don't know, most pilots make six-figure incomes, and they also have probably, I'm just going to assume, I'm not going to broad brush, but they probably have six-figure lifestyle as well. And that's another thing. Another problem that people have is the more they make, the more they spend. So, I mean, you figured, if you would learn as you were growing older, as your money increased, that, the importance of, being able to live modestly, but some people never understand that. And I think that's another thing that they don't really teach you in school. They don't really teach you how to be financially responsible. Once again, they also don't teach you to, be a business owner. They don't teach you to think on your own. They want you to teach you to follow rules. They teach you to do this. They teach you how to do it this way. They don't teach you the other way. They don't teach you how to become a successful business owner. They don't teach you these things. They don't teach you how to run your own business. They teach you how to run someone else's business.
It's about the size of it. Yeah, I couldn't put it any other way. It's like, they teach you how to remain dependent on a system, and they I'm not going to say that they don't want you to become a business owner or whatnot, but you're just not being, those kind of principles aren't being reinforced. I mean, I always say, thank God you have platforms like YouTube and whatnot, because I've learned so much just by watching people on YouTube, and I've applied some of the principles. I've taken some courses, like I told you, the 2 real estate courses I've taken and whatnot. But then when you take those courses, they'll give you just a little. And then if you really want the good information and quote unquote contacts, then you got to pay like an additional $20,000-$30,000. I'm like, someone's doing too much drugs or not enough. I don't know.
Yeah. I hear that.
So I'm like, okay. One instance, I was able to do a 3-day course for free, and I was with forgot the name of it. RE Mentor. Great course. I learned a lot about real estate and whatnot. But then they're like, I think it was $30,000 or $50,000. I needed to pay them so I could get access to their investors and their network and all that good stuff. I'm not downing RE Mentor. They got to make $1. Hey, it's a business. Yeah. But I looked at them. I said, well, where I'm trying to buy real estate, I could buy 2 or 3 houses with that amount of money. So it's just not making sense to me.
No, it doesn't. But
I was, fairly new at the time in real estate, but I'm like, the math isn't adding up.
Well, I mean, what they seem to take advantage of is that microwave mentality. That you want everything right here and right now. Because if you don't go through that, then you have to basically forge your own path and do it yourself.
Right.
Or you have to make your own business contacts. You have to, or whatever else they offer. They're trying to fast track you, but at the same time, they also, if I'm not mistaken, they don't even guarantee your results. So you're going to pay a bunch of money. You're going to pay all this money for something that's not even guaranteed. I don't know about you, but once again, I could buy 2 or 3 properties, for that kind of money. And then I'll make my own contacts. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Said they got to make $1, not $50,000. Just saying.
I mean, I wouldn't trade those 3 days for the world, because I actually got to meet some contacts that I'm still, connected with today. But I'm like, outside of that, there's no way of like that same amount of money. Heck, you could go to Baltimore and buy 4 places. They might not be in the best shape, but you'll be cash free and you can rehab, for God's sakes, or sell them as is and possibly make a profit. So I'm just like, come on now. It's like, but it just, I think it, the system is based for people to, stay in debt, and to not climb specific mountains if they're not going out on their own on the limb. And that's one thing I respect a lot of people. They're going out on their own and obtaining the information on their own in the information age, because they're like, hey, enough's enough. I'm seeing all these people doing well. How can I get on the bandwagon?
Well,
Especially,
knowledge is power, and people
yeah.
use to get that knowledge, and they use it for profit, or they use it to make profit. That's how colleges work. Businesses do the same thing. RE Mentor does the same thing that a college would.
Exactly.
Same extent. They're sharing. They're going to give you access to their knowledge or their contacts in exchange for $50,000, which is basically tuition at a college.
Hey, for some colleges, that's the normal for per semester. It's like it's crazy, or per year. Don't get me started. It's like it's, and I wonder how this situation is actually going to affect college tuition, because I think, because nobody knows when people are actually going to quote unquote return back to certain colleges. I know certain public schools are going to open back up. I don't think that's a good idea, but hey, what do I know?
Unfortunately,
Yeah, but
on that one.
exactly. I'll just keep it to myself. But I just, because a lot of colleges, well, I'll use three great examples. DC, Baltimore, and Richmond have one thing in common. They have a lot of universities that have bought up a lot of real estate dirt cheap, and have basically flipped the properties, and they're either renting the properties out. In some instances, they're leasing the properties to other businesses and whatnot. And that was before COVID becoming a big thing. But now with everything being shut down, and even they can't even have games. We were laughing about this at work. I don't know if you heard about this with the Orioles, the Baltimore Orioles. They flew to Florida, and because that there were cases of people at the baseball field having COVID-19, they didn't even get off the plane, and they came back to Baltimore.
I think that was because like 7 members of the opposing team tested positive. But
Correct.
I think it was what, I forgot what team it was. I'm not a big baseball guy.
Yeah, neither am I. But yeah, it was one of those teams, and yeah, because of that happening, and then it's like I was laughing with Chris the other day. One of the basketball players, he went to Atlanta for his grandfather's funeral, but then they caught him in a strip club, and he actually ended up catching COVID-19.
Oh Lord!
And he had a face mask on, and he's like, "It wasn't me," but they gave NBA players special face masks that only NBA players could have, and he wore that same face mask, so it was a dead giveaway.
Oh my Lord!
And I'm like, I'm sorry, who the hell wants to go to a strip club right now?
Yeah, seriously.
Like, I guess why?
He's got his priorities a little bit mixed up.
Exactly. The fact that they're open in Atlanta, that says a lot to me, but I'll leave that alone as well.
Yeah, it's strange. But those are working girls too, so I guess they got to make a buck too.
It's a free country, right? Hey, yeah. It is what it is. I don't know what to say about that, but I think in those instances that's why there's more uncertainty, because there's not going to be a need in the next. And here's another. I have all these predictions lately, so there's not going to be a need in the next, maybe let's go with 10 years, for all these campuses to be so large anymore. I think there's going to be a consolidation happening just for the survival of them.
I think a lot of
sell off the properties to other people or something. What do you think?
Well, I think the universities. I don't know if the university is going to follow suit with the businesses. In regards to more online classes. But I think also online is going to be the way of the future, and that's going to affect these learning institutions.
I think so.
That's. It's kind of improving. And I think maybe, who knows, maybe that'll make tuition go down.
You know what? And I think that would be a good thing in this country, because hey, if the university can still make a profit by them consolidating the size of the campuses, yeah. The downside is it will kill the chances of networking opportunities, because that is one great thing that college does provide for people. And because in business, you know as well as anybody, being a business owner yourself, you have to be able to network with people in order to grow.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of these tech companies, they have these conferences and whatnot, whether it's online, especially nowadays, or in person, so people can network with more people, because they know it's all about technology. Can't change engagement. Like, even though you and me are in the same county, majority of the time we see each other is via this platform.
Yes.
So technology, but you and I know each other long enough to be able to do this. But when it comes, I think the new engagement norm is just going to be having 5 or 6 people on a call like this, engaging, for future generations. I mean, heck, we already know, like Google and Facebook have already said they want their people working at home until sometime next year.
Yep. I
So
believe Google said that. Google, I think, was it one of the big tech companies did that. They're not coming back until sometime next year, and that's
yeah,
if
I think
they don't do it again. They don't push it back even farther.
exactly because I mean, if a tech company can't work remotely, then who can? I mean, let's be realistic.
That's true. They should be the most equipped and capable of doing it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And then the thing is, I was talking about because I titled this, a lot of states face a lot of uncertainty. Well, a lot of the population relocating to the Southwest and the southern part of the United States. Do you foresee a lot of states on the West Coast and the Northeast and the Midwest? Because a lot of people are leaving places like Michigan and Illinois and Wisconsin, to go to other cheaper states and obviously more warmer states. Because a lot of people have left Illinois to move to Arizona. I mean, if I had to choose, I'd live in Arizona all day. But nothing against Illinois or whatnot, but it's just too. I don't do cold weather, and it's just nothing exciting about it to me. But yeah. So with that being said, do you see a lot more states losing their tax base and then having to maybe change the way? Because everything's always been a competition in America. Nothing wrong with that. That's the beauty of America, competition, right? But do you think in order to have people want to relocate back to the West Coast or back to the Northeast or even parts of the Midwest, do you think that these state governments are going to have to somewhat change their approach, kind of like what Oklahoma did with the whole remote working? And he said, well, how much were they going to pay people?
$10,000.
They was going to pay what?
$10,000
For people to move to Oklahoma.
to remote work. Yes.
To remote work. Oklahoma. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Well, at least it's a city. You've been to Tulsa before, right?
Yeah. Not a bad city.
Not a bad city. Okay. I've never been to Oklahoma, so I wouldn't know. But okay. So I remember you told me that. I wonder if that still stands into existence today, because I could see people jumping on that now.
I think that's going to become, more, prevalent, states doing that in order to try to attract some of these people, especially since most companies, I feel, are eventually going to start going more remote. And like, we were talking about earlier, it's just basically this COVID-19 is just basically warp speed, in order for that to happen. It was already, I think it was already being phased in, but now it's kind of, not only is it phased in, but it's been shown as proven to be not only is it effective, but even more effective than just sitting in a cubicle for 8 to 12 hours, 10 hours a day, however long shifts people work.
That's true.
So
that's true.
I can see other states eventually trying to incentivize like people to move there. That because a lot of people, I see people leaving like a lot of high tax states like California, New York, cheaper states. So possibly, given the fact that places what Tulsa's doing, incentivizing, I could possibly see that eventually at some point, maybe in the future, with like these other states with these higher tax rates and standards of living, I can see them incentivizing people to actually basically try to move them back. Because if Oklahoma can do it, then and Oklahoma's not a very rich state. I mean, they don't have a lot of money. So if they can do it, then I'm pretty sure that one of the state like California can eventually do it, or even New York. Just tax base.
Yeah. And that's what I think. You're 100% correct. They're going to have to end up doing that in the long run, because if not, then they're just going to have ghost populations. I mean, towns, whatnot, in those states. And look, I'm a #1 fan of California, but I know at the end of the day, the dollars make sense. And if somebody can't afford to live someplace, they're going to move where they can. It is what it is. It is what it is. And it's like if you have 10,000 people leaving your state every month, and even still during COVID-19, that says a lot. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to give somebody, outside of beautiful weather and a beautiful atmosphere, everything boils down to the dollar, because the rent man and the mortgage man and the light bill and the electric company, the water company don't care, about your situation. They need
they just want their money.
Period.
Yeah.
You know? And forbearance is only going to last but for so long for all of these things because the economy can't be stabilized and remain active if people are not getting paid.
Yeah, that's correct.
You
Or
know,
they're not paying their rents or mortgages too, because they also,
exactly,
these banks need that to be able to get that money back so they can lend it to other people.
exactly. Because if they can't lend money, then they're a wash. You know,
Yep.
banks go down, everything else goes down. We already know that. So
Yep.
that's why, I mean, at the end of the day, we know that that's not going to happen because other people's interest is going to come first, obviously.
Yep.
So that's the good news. You know, it might not be the way that we want it to happen, but we know that things will stay stabilized in that regards. But my personal opinion in this regards is I wonder what kind of, well, it's like you said, if they can do it, especially if like a state like Maine can do it too, they were doing the same thing. Um, what is it? They were offering to pay off people's tuition to move.
Wow.
Yeah, yes, yes. And I thought that was smart. You know, hey, because nowadays everybody's in a battle. Hey, why should I move to your state? You know,
Hey, that's one hell of a reason right there.
yeah, especially with the student loan bubble and whatnot. So people are like, hey, why should I move to your state? Give me an incentive, okay? Lower cost of living, less taxes, no income state tax. So if another state counters and says, well, hey, we'll pay off your college tuition, hey, that might incentivize somebody to go live in the cold. Hey, or $10,000. I could use $10,000. I'll go move to Oklahoma. So
You won't be happy, but more than welcome to go there.
exactly. And the thing is, the one thing I love about our generation is that we don't mind doing something temporarily. I think that's why house hacking works for us so much. Like I was watching Bigger Pockets, that's a real estate podcast, and they were talking about, hey, because one person was like, well, what if I don't like the house that I live in? They're like, okay, live there for a year. A year's not the rest of your life, and then move. Rent the place out and move. It doesn't mean house hacking. I mean, when you buy a place, that's one thing I love about our generation, the millennial generation. We know that we don't have to stay someplace for the rest of our life. Certain previous generations were like, hey, this is the one house I'm buying. I'm going to stay in this community my whole life, and that's it. No, we're active. We're movers. We're shakers. We're like, hey, I don't have to stay in Virginia. I'll go to Texas or Florida or California, or I can move to another country. We don't mind, that being having that freedom. Let's put it like that. We don't have to be bogged down and tied down to one specific area. And if a state's offering you an incentive, hey, well, like Alaska gives one of the best incentives out of the whole country, that stipend every month. I mean, you get $12,000 a year, guaranteed.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing.
I think that's one of the biggest reasons why, especially people like I know a couple people that work in the oil business down in Texas. A lot of them they actually moved to Alaska, and some of them moved there for good because they like that oil stipend, and they feel that they're working less and they're not working as much because they get that extra $12,000 a month. So and they actually like the lifestyle up there. So I'm like, hey, if it works for you, but like I told you, my cousins, him and his wife, he has 2 kids, so they make $4,000 a month. So if you put that exactly for not working, just being a state resident. So and they're both doctors. So if you add that all up, they're doing pretty good. Yeah, I mean they got to deal with the cold and not seeing the sun for a couple months, but hey, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
I don't think I could get used to that. It would be cool to experience it because I actually want to go on an Alaskan cruise one day. But yeah, living there, I don't see that happening. I'd have to be pretty desperate for extra $1,000 a month. But California could do that. They could afford that. They could.
You think they could afford to give every resident $1,000?
If not 1,000, at least $500 a month. The only reason they're one of the richest states in the country, right? For the issues that they have, like any other state, right? But they are one of the richest states in the country. I mean, especially when it comes to the importing and exporting of goods and whatnot, because of their connection with the Pacific Ocean, the tech companies, Hollywood, so it's like you have a multitude of jobs there. They're not a state that's hurting with jobs,
No.
even though they've lost a significant amount due to Elon Musk, Tesla leaving, but SpaceX is still in Los Angeles. I don't know if you realized it, but where the airport is? That's where SpaceX's headquarters is.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell you. Yeah, because they're in so right next to LAX, there's a military base, and there's an engineering district, and there's a bunch of engineering companies there. things of that nature. And obviously it makes sense because you're right next to the airport. It's a big aerospace hub in El Segundo in that specific area. And we actually drove by El Segundo. My bad. We were in El Segundo and we were going by SpaceX because I just wanted to see it.
Yeah.
So we drove by the headquarters. It's very beautiful from the outside, at least.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because usually his schedule is he's actually going. He would go back and forth every day. He goes back and forth between LA and Northern California. So now I wonder how that's going to play out now that he's moved mostly everything from Tesla to Nevada and Austin. But with the digital economy, he's not going to have to. It just doesn't make any sense for you to have to fly everywhere all the time now.
No.
You know,
and I'm sure he flies private jets anyway. So if he never ever from there, he's got so much money, it's not going to matter anyway.
Exactly. The funny thing is, though, it actually affected his health because all the ripping and running. Because eventually it always catches up with you.
That's true.
Yeah, it's just like just imagine having to get on a plane every single day of your life, and you're working like nonstop. No breaks. But like you said, he's rich enough, but still, money can't put a price on your health.
That's true.
But I think they could afford it. Like you said, if Oklahoma could afford it, California can afford it. I know there's more of a bigger population in California compared to Oklahoma, but they'd have to work out something. But there's a reason why the cost of living is so high there. It didn't just happen out of nowhere. You know what I mean? There's money there. There's money to be made. So, and I think that might be, if they want to keep regular working people in that state, that is the prediction that I have in that regards, that they're going to have to start giving people a monthly stipend or something. Because if not, they're just going to continuously move to cheaper states.
That's true. And I can see, that does make sense.
Incomes are going to remain stagnated, and especially now in the remote economy. And even when things get back to normal, I think a lot of companies are just going to do more with less.
I think you're correct. It's like, people are already saying like downsizing office space. So that's already going to happen. So, commercial real estate, it's going to take a big hit.
I mean, that might be some good news for you and me, though.
That's true.
Residential real estate, I don't want that to happen. But commercial real estate, I wouldn't mind it because, hey, that could be good news for you and me, like, especially if we're buying so great example, and I'll throw this one out there. Imagine having a co-working space in a city like Baltimore or Reading or Harrisburg or Allentown or Philadelphia. Okay. And you know what a co-working space is, right?
No. What were you going to?
So basically, it's just a place, and they've become a lot more popular now. Think of like an internet cafe.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but they call it co-working spaces because you have to pay a specific fee. You can't just go there for the sake of going there. You have to pay a specific fee to go there. Some are free, some aren't. But, because everybody has different rules and whatnot. And it has like a cafe, vending machines and things of that nature, so it creates the door of opportunity. And some co-working spaces, you actually can go and like go into your own personal office room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's like, and I get the reason for it, the need for it, because, it's great that you can work from home. But I don't know if you realize that, but a lot of times you and I go out to a restaurant out in LA and whatnot, a lot of people were working on their computers and whatnot.
I did notice that.
Yeah, and that's just normal, because you have, techies and people writing screenplays and things of that nature, people booking appointments and whatnot. So I could see more of that happening. So if somebody wants to go to a quiet space, because, staying at home all the time, it gets boring with Corona or without it. So you're going to, right? So that, the atmosphere where you're going in a downtown area, you can go work in a co-working space. You might open the door for you to network with more people that are in business just like you or working in the same industry, So I can see more of things like that becoming more popular. And,
yeah, definitely.
And in a place like Baltimore that they're gentrifying already, I could see that becoming more and more, millennial friendly or cloud or Generation Z friendly and whatnot, because I could imagine what the people coming out of college and high school nowadays, how they're going to be looking at work compared to our generation.
I think it's going to be difficult. I mean,
Why you say that?
Well, I mean, even the generation, after us, trying to find jobs is a little bit difficult. Especially good paying jobs. Especially you're saying with the student loan bubble, that's playing a factor. And then trying to coming out of college and then trying to compete against the younger generation is competing against our generation and the generation before ours for those jobs. And
That's true.
the thing is, the cost of living continues to increase, so you're going to have more people staying with their, staying longer with their families, their parents, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I think there's a multitude of factors
I agree.
to
I
take into
agree.
consideration. But I mean,
And
it's not a good situation in regards to the newer generation, because things have not gotten easier. Things have gotten harder for the worker. I mean, look,
yes,
I mean, look back in the 50s, when you could just survive on one income.
yes,
And you just have one job, you could support your whole family. Your wife didn't have to work, you have the kids, and you have a life. But over
that's
time,
true.
it's gotten more and more expensive. That's why we even have to talk. We have to have the conversation about having your own business is important. Having an additional cash, having additional income is important. Additional cash
Yes,
flow.
yes, and yeah, and the main thing is you cannot. It's. I'm not going to say you cannot, but I think it's very dangerous to only be a W-2 employee nowadays. If you're not going to own your own business, at least find a way for you to get into the 1099 club.
There you need to have more than one income in this now day and age, and it's going to become even more prevalent as more time goes on. I think
Agreed.
eventually more people are going to start waking up to the reality, because it's something, it's becoming more and more daunting, more and more apparent.
Agreed.
Every year goes by, it's just be showing that things are unpredictable, and that you need
Yes.
to make sure that you have security behind you, and that is by having a second source of income, or
Exactly.
cash flow.
Exactly. And another beautiful thing is don't try to be such a lone ranger. Squat up with people, team up with people and whatnot. Engage with people who have the same mindset. Because like I said, if you're on a different train track and yet you're still associating with people that's on a different train track, I think you're going to lose, because you need that. Like if I'm talking to you and I'm giving you good positive energy and vice versa, we have the same mindset and same plans, and when we execute something, and sometimes if we do it together, it makes it that much better, because you have backup, because trying to be such a lone ranger, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work in your favor, especially when all the chips fall.
That's true. It's always good to
And
have group economics. That's the best way.
agreed.
That it also lessens your risk. There's also advantages. Just being able
Absolutely.
to share your ideals, and share experiences, to be able to grow off of one another,
Agreed.
to be able to help each
I,
other. It's important. That's what I think.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And it's like I said, I think as time moves on and persists, I think that, like I stated earlier, when we were on the phone, I think that we're going to become more of a cross um, countries. We're going to be more intertwined. Like we live in a global economy now, but I think we're just going to be living in a more global living economy, as you stated, with more remote access jobs. You might have people live, like I said, they could be living in Ghana and work and come to the United States every now and then. They could be living in Mexico, Puerto Rico,
Hmm.
Cuba. I mean, the list goes, Dominican Republic, the list goes on and on. They could be living in the Philippines, and they could just be work from, as long as they have the internet, they could just be working from there. That
Yep.
saves the company money, and that's saving that worker money. And then the thing is, the companies might say, okay, well, we'll pay you less, but we'll give you these additional benefits. But since you live in the Philippines and the cost of living is 10 times less, you live in Mexico, the American dollar goes way further there. Hey, it's a win-win situation for everybody. And I think you might see more of an increase in that, with it being more of a digital online economy.
I would definitely agree with you on that.
But then it's like, I think it kind of will affect the American economy from a tax-based perspective, because
Yeah, I think that's going to create another issue where people start living abroad, and then since they're not
yes,
paying their U.S. taxes, they're going to be paying foreign taxes. That's also going to affect the tax base. But that's
yeah,
also going to be probably something for future generation to figure out. I mean,
mm,
maybe later on in our lifespan, maybe. But I mean, I think that's still a little ways away for it to affect
yeah. Give
on a
another 10
national
to
level.
15 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
another 10, 15, maybe 20 years. But I just see it happening more if things persist in this manner. From an economic perspective, because I know a lot of Americans do this already, and I mean, I would know how. I've seen when you file your taxes, it asks you, do you pay taxes in another country? I know you've
Yeah.
seen that on the form
Yeah.
before. So, and a lot of people have to deal with that, and that's a whole other tax bracket that CPAs can talk to, because I know I can't. But I can just see that happening probably more so and make things probably way more complicated for the tax system as a whole. Because, like I said, governments need revenue in order to survive. And that's why it's like I think California is going to be and New York State is going to be forced to do that if they continuously losing people at the rate that they're losing people. They're going to be forced to do that.
I think that they're going to need to do some kind of changes because at some point they're going to have to. I mean, they're going to lose too much tax base, and I mean I know I was reading an article that California is actually considering raising taxes on millionaires, on
Is
their
that right?
on wealthy people again to generate more income. So I mean the thing is if you have the you're going to actually continue to push people out by doing that, but unless I don't know. I mean, like I said, there's a point where you can only tax so much, and then people are going to be like, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to move to another state. I'm going to move to Texas. I'm going to move to Arizona. I'm going to move to Nevada. I'm going to move to Florida.
You're right. They will lose. Look, like I said, I'm California's #1 fan, but any state will lose if they continuously raise taxes on people. And people work hard. I mean, let's be realistic about it. And I get why they have the tax base that they have because it's like you can work damn near any job and have access to medical benefits. They call it Cali Medical. So they have their own state insurance. For everybody, whatnot. Pay into it so you can get access to it. There are those certain perks and benefits to it. But it's like you said, there's but so much people are going to take. And if you have more millionaires leaving your state, then that really leaves your state in the hole. I mean,
that's true.
Those are the job creators. I mean, people can hate it or not, but those are the job creators. So, it's like I know why you remember former Governor Jerry Brown. I know why he raised taxes way back when, because the previous governor basically put the state in a recession before the country had a recession and whatnot. So I get why he did it, but I think now it's stabilization time. It's like, hey, I'm not a political expert.
Isn't it Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
He was Arnold. Arnold messed the state up by lowering taxes and put it into a deficit.
Kind of like, yeah. And like I said, it's like just find your balance, man. It's like you don't have to have excessive taxes. You don't have excessive low taxes. Just find the even balance. I think that's one thing Virginia's pretty good at. In that regard, no matter who the governor has been, it's like it's not too excessive and it's not too low. It's just in the middle.
Yeah, that's true. I would agree. That's one of the good things about Virginia, and they're pretty even keel on it.
Yeah, I give them that much credit. It's even keel. It's not too excessive to where you're gonna have too many people complain. So I give them that much credit. But I think they need to. I think that's what's going to be the future of California, is maybe getting to the Virginia status of taxation and possibly giving some extra perks and whatnot. Because, like I said, people are going to live where their money goes for longer. It is what it is. People want to have savings.
That's true.
Be able to go on vacation. People want to be able to. Smart people buy more assets. If I'm constantly, nobody wants to live paycheck to paycheck forever.
Yeah, seriously. Who really wants to live paycheck to paycheck? I'm pretty sure that the average person doesn't like it, but given their circumstances, being where they live and what their job is, some people don't really have that much of a choice, but realizing they do have a choice because they have other options.
Bingo.
They either may not know about it, or they're not willing to do it. They don't want to go the extra mile. They just want to be able to do their 8 hours and go home and go somewhere but watch TV and Netflix or whatever.
I think it's just what you just said of the latter, because in the information age, they know. So I think that they really just because even it still boggles my mind. I've been trying to stay off social media. I only get on for engagement purposes with people and for business. But I still see, even in today's economy, I still see more and more people worried about when it comes to music, things of that nature, more than like with the situation that the country's in right now. I'm just like, that should be like the last thing on anybody's mind. I mean, it makes sense. You got to have fun. You got to enjoy life. I get it. But all this unnecessary gossip and drama, it's just like, why? I think a lot of people are still going to understand the way that they were beforehand and then wonder why they barely have 2 cents to their names.
Yep, exactly.
Like, why? I don't get it, but that's just me. So what advice would you give if you were talking to any of these states? Just a suggestion to have them, after this is over with, to give people incentives to want to move to their states again. Because everybody's going to Texas. Idaho, I still don't know why Idaho, but maybe it's just because of the cost of living. Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Colorado and whatnot. But well, so what advice would you give them? You're talking to the state governors. What advice would you give them?
Well, I mean, you want to be able to have a good tax base. So at the same time, you want to keep businesses there. So you have to be very careful when with your taxes. But a lot of governments will give tax breaks to businesses. But the thing
Right.
is, you can have businesses, but if you don't have the personnel to work there, especially the skilled personnel, then you're going to have a problem. And then a lot of people, once again, even I could say even living in Northern Virginia is incredibly expensive
Yes.
compared to what it was. Trying to find affordable housing and even where we live is growing difficult.
Yes. Because we bought at the right time, and I'm glad you said it. We bought at the right time during the last recession.
Hmm.
No doubt. But yeah, like now it's kind of gotten like the fact that I'm seeing more $1 million homes. I don't understand. And I'm not seeing like $1 million homes with a lot of land or next to anything special. Because I'm like, if it's on next to the Occoquan River or something like that, that's not special. So tell me, am I missing something? Maybe it's because we grew up here, but I don't see it. What am I missing?
I honestly, I'm not really sure. Maybe just biased of living here. I think probably
I
living
think
in
that's
the
what
area.
it is. I mean, I see restaurants, I see overpriced houses, I see traffic. That's all I see.
It what it I mean, I think one thing that keeps the prices so high is because you do have a lot of companies moving in. I mean, we had Amazon moving in. I know Apple
True,
talking
true.
about putting a second headquarters here, so the
Right.
jobs are here. But then
The
again,
jobs are here. Yes.
that's one reason why it's getting so expensive. And the farther closer to DC you get, the more expensive. So it's just
Big time.
everything surrounding DC and all the way out is just going to continue to grow. I mean, it's going to become more densely populated because this area over the past 10 years have just exploded with growth. Like the
Yes.
population has exploded.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
I mean, they don't really. I mean, I've noticed they don't really build a lot of single family homes anymore. They're mostly building condos. It's condos everywhere,
Yes.
condos, and
Yes.
you may see townhomes, but most of the time it's
You
condos.
know why that is, right?
Well, density, they can make more money per square foot.
Agreed. And then not only that, they have so great example. There's been a term out there called the suburbs is dead, right?
Was not aware of that.
When you get a chance, Google it. There's this actually woman actually spoke about it. Very very enlightening. She did a TED talk about it. But meaning, so the millennial generation is one of the generations that doesn't want most people don't want the picket fence. They don't want the yard. They want to live the city life. You know what I mean? In a sense, they want to like that's why living in the city is so expensive because it caters to quote unquote millennials. People want to be able to get off of work, you know, or like obviously life before COVID-19. Go see a show. You know what I mean? They don't just want to go to their suburban home and be bored out of their freaking mind. And everybody, get married and have kids and look at the dog chase the cat or and you know what I'm getting at. A lot of people want to be able to go to Starbucks, walk to Starbucks, walk to their favorite restaurant, et cetera, and so forth. If there's a show from a comedian or a concert, they want to be able to get a 10-minute Uber instead of having to drive 40 minutes to an hour to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the suburbs, from my observations, how they're attempting to rectify it is making town centers.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I mean,
Yeah, that's
so
what I was getting
they're
at.
trying to centralize everything. Just like where we live.
Exactly.
They built a town center. Like just like every city now, it seems like they're getting their own town center. Town center
Correct.
is the new thing. Town center gives you a taste
Yes.
of that city life without the
Even though you're in
city
the
life.
suburbs. Right.
Yeah, while living in the burbs.
Exactly. And then when you eat at the town center, you're going to pay double the price. Yeah. You're
You're not
going to
getting
pay.
no deal worth going to a town center.
Say again.
So you're not finding any kind of deal on stuff when going to a town center
Not at
when it
all.
comes to food and such.
Not at all. And it's like you said, they try like a town center here and what was it? It's called Potomac Place or what is it?
Potomac, it's Potomac Town Center
Potomac Town Center. Yeah.
or Stony
They
Brook.
try to. Yeah, they're trying to give it that city vibe and whatnot. But I laugh at that whole concept. But the first time I went to a town center was in Reston, and whatnot. And I wasn't impressed. I was like, okay, this is like when I took you to downtown Riverside. You can, if you want to make the comparison, what was better?
You can't compare that. That
But why not? It's a suburb.
That was different. I've never seen anything like that. That was amazing. I mean,
and that was in the suburbs.
Have that kind of lifestyle in a suburb is, blew my mind.
Yeah, that's why Riverside County is definitely home, and that's why I always give them kudos. You got to see a place where concerts and events happen. You have museums, you have restaurants, you have comedy, theater, things of that nature, and you're surrounded by the suburbs and the desert and the mountains, and you're 40 minutes away from Los Angeles, hour and a half away from San Diego, so you're in a great position. Exactly. So it's like that's what makes me laugh in that instance. But like I said, the town centers are trying to do that because, especially the condos, are trying to make it more quote unquote millennial friendly. Like you see where the Water's Edge used to be, what they've done down there.
Yeah, they put a bunch of brand new condo, or was that, I don't know if they're condos or apartment complex. I'm not sure if it's apartment.
Yeah, well, I guess you can go with a condo. They in this area they call it an apartment condos. So just to give it that fancy ring to it, so you can have those condo fees and keep a certain element out, as they call it. They get the beautiful view of the Occoquan River, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I know I'm just dying to be able to get into a place like that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I can tell it's written all over your face.
But yeah, it's. I think the future is going to be interesting. But I think that the conversations I would just say to the governors is just like, hey, you got. Like New York's not hurting for jobs, California's not hurting for jobs, but they possibly could be hurting for jobs in the future if this continues to persist. I mean, the workers have already started to leave. Now the companies are starting to leave. So it's like, and with the internet age, location really doesn't matter anymore. It's just all about the dollar. And I think that's the one thing why a lot of states are going to have to change how they do business, because digital age, they're like, okay, great, you have this, but I could save more money if I go here, So it's and thing with the workers, like, hey, that's why people here in this area, they're going to the Carolinas, they're going to Georgia, and they're going to Florida. So, and some are going to Texas, but mostly they're going to those areas that are still on the East Coast. But they all tell me it's because of the cost of living. Like even some people moved to Kentucky, because the people I knew that lived in Manassas, they live in Kentucky, but the cost of living went down. I still wouldn't do that, but hey, that's me.
hey, whatever floats their boat.
Exactly. So, anyways, on that note, sir, I greatly appreciate you coming on tonight, man. Hopefully,
no problem.
Everything works out for you this week, and what we were talking about earlier, which is nobody's business. And just keep me afloat. And as always, brother, make money moves and stay safe. All right.
Roger that. Take care and have a good night.
You as well, sir. Thank you. All right, family. Thanks for tuning in. Please do the great 3 free things by liking, sharing, and subscribing. And if you're interested in joining the Care Bars International, where we buy gold, save gold, and refer others to do the same thing, once you sign up, I will give you a call, and we can go from there to discuss the additional information. Check out the online store. Support your small businesses. Make a few purchases here and there, whether it's $3 or $10 and whatnot. Constantly adding products to the store every day. Get your Larry's Anything Goes medical masks and whatnot, represent the financial intelligence brand. And on that note, family, I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day. And as always, make money moves.